Kevin, you did look pretty sharp tonight. I just want to comment. Can you turn the mic? Can you hear me?
I can. Happy holiday.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of Monday, December 12th, 2022. I ask that all who have not signed in, please do so. Please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please conduct any private conversation in the hallway or outside. Emergency exits can be found to your right and to your left. Also want to note that this meeting is also live streamed via YouTube with text commenting available. And now if you'd please join us in a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Well, good evening, everyone. And I want to start with, first of all, our Deputy Town Supervisor, Dave Condon, will be necessarily absent this evening. A reminder that all town operations will be closed on December 26th. And that's Monday, yes, December 26th, in observance of Christmas. And our next town board meeting will be on December the 27th, which is a Tuesday. So. Okay, start with, first of all, meeting minutes from the 28th of November. This was our joint meeting with the village board as well. Board members, any comments or questions?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next, manifest number 23. We'll ask our town clerk to please introduce this.
Manifest number 23 for 2022 in the amount of $263,066.88 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: general townwide, general outside village, highway townwide, the lighting districts of Fishers, Brookwood Meadows, High Point, Cobblestone, Coyle Ridge, Rolling Meadows, Stone Lay, and Legacy at the Fairways, S&S Consolidated Sewer Fund, and Trust and Agency.
Thank you, Karen. And up on the big screen, to your right, to your left, you can see we try to identify expenditures that are in the range of or exceed the $5,000 threshold. No surprise payment this time of year. American Rock Salt for our road salt. Next is payment to Civic Recreation for the annual software license. Next is Dasco Piping for Pump Station 25 improvements. Payment to Harris Beach. And within that, there is 11 months in legal research and advice, which will be reimbursed by Framark. And total cost to the town is $9,910.32 when we extract the legal research and advice. Next, payment to integrated system, and this is for the December hosting and door access management. Security upgrades, this is ARPA funded, utilization of ARPA funds to the new tune of $46,000. Next is payment to MVP Healthcare, NOCO Energy diesel fuel for the month of November, and then payment to RG&E. Total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $206,959.44. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $56,107.44. Board members, any comments or questions on this evening's abstract number 23? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve. I think Councilman Kohovic. We have a second?
Second. Drew,
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, manifest number 23. So originally with us was supposed to be Lorna Wright, Genesee Land Trust, and I know unfortunately Kim Kinsella from the Building and Planning Department had something come up right at the 11th hour, and she's not able to make it, but in place of Lorna is Gay Mills. And with us, we have our friends from the Victor Hiking Trails, as well as the developer, Mr. Jeff Smith, in attendance.
So,
I'm not, is the green light on?
green.
I'll give her a little tap.
Yep, you're on.
Okay, I'll try. Gay Mills, Executive Director of Genesee Land Trust. And I have to say, I kind of got onto the last minute as well, so I'm not 100% sure where this conversation starts.
We won't grade you.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So Genesee Land Trust was approached about, from, I believe, the developer, and with the planning board, about possibly, would we be interested in receiving a donation of land or a transfer of land that would be part of the Stonebrook, that was many names, Stonebrook subdivision that is proposed. The part that we would be interested in thinking about is along Mud Creek and directly across the creek from the Farmington Mertensia Park and right off of the Auburn Trail. Gonna orient myself. Okay, so we were approached about this idea and are very interested in seeing this land, as the planning board had expressed that the town was interested in seeing this land held as one parcel that would not only protect its conservation features, its natural habitat, and the creek side, but also be made available to the public. And so the Land Trust has walked it with the developer. We've walked the property. We've talked with the Victor Hiking Trails and have talked with the developer extensively and prepared what we thought of a draft MOU for consideration with the town, similar to one we've used with other towns before, that there's a mutual interest in protecting this, and seeing this property remain open and available to the public over time, with the Genesee Land Trust potentially being the owner and looking to partner with the hiking trails group, Victor Hiking Trails Group, and also looking to the town for some commitment at some level regarding being in this effort on behalf of the Land Trust and the hiking trails is actually fulfilling part of the town's desire to see open space such as this and available and open to the public. So we submitted an MOU and a draft that seemed to reflect the conversations that had happened at the planning board, both with the town of Victor and the town of Farmington, and also with the friends of, I always want to say friends, Victor Hiking Trails and the developer. And there was a short reply back from the attorney saying that, no, this MOU is not acceptable. And so we are sort of here to come back and say, how can we work together? Is there a way to work together? Genesee Land Trust typically, when it looks to acquire land, recognizes a long-term responsibility that is inherent in making that decision, as does the town board, as does the developer. Every piece of land requires ongoing care and management, even if it's so-called forever wild. And so when we typically acquire a piece of property, whether it's a donation or a purchase, we look to also bolster our capacity to manage and take care of that. We are a local not-for-profit. We are supported by individual donations, grants, et cetera. And so this is one of the places that we start, is talking to a landowner or others who might be particularly interested in in that particular land being protected. So we'd approach the developer, and typically we request something on the order of $15,000 to $20,000 for any property that we acquire to have as our long-term commitment to the property. And then there are additional costs related to developing a property and keeping it open to the public. So I'm not quite sure where the conversation is at this moment, because I haven't really been directly involved in it. But other than if the current MOU, which was before you, is not an acceptable way of thinking about a relationship, are there other ways of moving forward with the project that can accommodate both some of our needs and accommodate the town's needs to seeing this land be kept open, or interest in seeing the land kept open and available to the public? And I thought that part of what Kim had some ideas about that, and I thought between the Victor Hiking Trails and the Land Trust, there were other relationships, and so I'm not quite sure where we are from the board's perspective, or what decisions and things you need to know, or what questions you might have.
Gay, you know what I'd like to do at this point, before myself or the board members or our town attorney weighs in? I'm going to ask you to step to the side and ask Mr. David Wright or Scott Reinhardt, and I don't know if they're prepared to say anything, but we'd love to hear what Victor Hiking Trails has interest in that piece of property. So,
Good evening, David Wright, 33 Ketchum Street, and chairman of Victor Hiking Trails. When this first came up, the developer looking to take the 100 plus acres of land and develop them into 85 homes. We were, of course, very interested in creating trails on the property. And over 50% of it will be conservation easement. I think there's 15 acres that are actually in the town of Farmington. The rest is in the town of Victor. And it is an ideal place for development of trails. The creek is a floodplain area, so we won't be doing a lot down there as far as construction or anything like that, but there are some great woodland areas above the creek, overlooking the creek. There's some history there where the trolley used to go through the property, and so we've been interested in it from the very beginning. When the town decided that they did not want it as town park, the developer started looking for other avenues, and Genesee Land Trust was one of the ones that they wanted to partner with. We hope that they can partner with Genesee Land Trust, because we have had other properties in the town of Victor that were owned, or at least operated under the ownership of Genesee Land Trust in Victor. So if this goes through, like we hope, we would also have a mutual understanding with Genesee Land Trust and Victor Hiking Trails, because we are very interested in developing trails on the conservation area. We would work with them to lay out the trails. We actually have already walked some of the property between Genesee Land Trust, Victor Parks and Recreation, and Victor Hiking Trails. We've already walked some of the property. And because it is a large project, we would probably develop the trails in a number of phases, so that you can't eat an elephant in one bite, you got to take several bites. So we have a lot of experience developing trails, maintaining the trails, and we look forward to having a partnership with Genesee Land Trust. add anything?
Scott Reinhardt, 7342 Dryer Road. Just want to point out also, I know, we are Victor Hiking Trails, but this piece of property is a unique property for Victor. Somebody mentioned that it's one of the only waterfront properties there is, and I've covered, as part of the board, I've covered most of the trails, not all of the trails that we have. This one is definitely a unique area, and it would be kind of visionary, and I salute Mr. Smith for being a visionary developer, and if anybody would like to walk out there and take a look at it, it is different than anything else that we have, and it's worthy of preservation. So even beyond the trails, just saving this for the future of Victor is really a great thing to do, in my vision. Thank you.
Scott, actually, we did, I think, year and a half ago, I think I think the vast majority of us had an opportunity to walk it, and you're right, we get along the, the Farmington line and, and heading to the creek areas, and so Gay, part of what we, the reason we felt we didn't want to enter into the MOU, we had conversation, and Scott mentioned it as well, and David, is the fact that, Town Park, speaking to our Director of Parks and Rec, that we felt, we had adequate parks on that, conventional park on that side of town, and the feeling was that didn't really, from a maintenance standpoint, didn't want to take on more, and when we read through and had our attorney look through the MOU, that's what we felt. It was taking on additional maintenance responsibilities, and that was something we weren't looking for. We looked at that as, labor's not cheap, and, upgrades to that. So I don't know how we get around that obstacle, and probably that, and rely on the attorney for advice that way. And so board members, feel free to offer comments if you'd like.
So I guess the question I had, and I don't have the map in front of me, certainly when I walked the property, and I agree with the comments that were made, I thought it's very unique, and I think that it would be nice to see that preserved. That said, I think that the ideal spots along the trail that I recall probably were mostly in the town of Farmington. I mean, a good portion of that off of the Auburn Trail along the stream bed there. I believe that a good portion of it's in Farmington. And I don't recall, and Supervisor, I don't know if someone can clarify for me, did Farmington, did they not have interest in collaborating between the two towns from a legal perspective?
Actually, their attorney, as much as our attorney advised us on a couple of points regarding maybe Article 8 of Section 1 of the New York State Constitution prohibiting towns on giving or loaning money, property, labor, and equipment, the Farmington attorney doubled down on the amount of items that he flagged. So they were not willing to move forward with the MOU as well.
I think that, at this point, that's I guess would be a sticking point to me is, the preservation of that would require, it sounds like to a certain degree, some agreements between the two towns as well.
Yes.
Is that correct?
My understanding is that, you might be able to help me, is that the floodplain area is mostly in Farmington, and that the Victor Hiking Trails was thinking to put trails out of the floodplain, or most of them out of the floodplain, and that is within Victor. I was looking at the map, people. And so the primary driver of having this property be set aside is from the perspective of the new development going in, and that the Farmington piece is unlikely to be developed or developable because of it being part of the floodplain. Would you like to speak to that?
I think I need to, yes. Jeff Smith with Woodstone Custom Homes. You know, going back in time, we had a meeting with Lorna Wright, may have been as much as a year ago. And at the meeting, I thought there was a concurrence of opinion, and Farmington supervisor was there, and Jack was there, and I think engineers were there, et cetera. My impression when we left the meeting was that Genesee Land Trust wasn't going to ask for any materials and labor, but at that meeting at least, it was the nature of if there were grant proposals that they were trying to raise money, then the town would say, yes, we support that effort. But never was there implication of material and labor from the town to support the parcel. Now, quite honestly, that's as simple as, that's the rub. I mean, if Genesee Land Trust in a MOU says that we don't expect material and labor from the town, but we would like moral support of the effort of conservation, et cetera, in case it's needed for grants or other things, then I think we're okay with both the Farmington and Victor from a legal perspective. My going back a little bit was first time I heard this evening was a question of $15,000 or $25,000 support from someone. That was the first I've heard that. You know, I'm a generous guy. I want to preserve the land, and I think to keep it whole will be better than carving it up into about 30 pieces with the various lots, which is our option. And that's what most developers do in Victor. In your backyard, you're not supposed to walk beyond the conservation line. It's an imaginary line. And I would agree with David that, you know, this is a unique parcel, and I always felt that when we walked it. So it was kind of like, this would be nice parkland. It would be better not to carve it up into 30 pieces and have kids, you know, whatever, doing what they do. So let's get back to the point. If Genesee can prepare an MOU that says we don't need anything from the town, then I think the towns would be okay. Now, first time I've heard tonight, I don't know if Genesee will be okay. If they expect support, then it might be a non-issue and we need to close the book. I'll go back to either David, who wants to adopt it from the trails and not expect anything from the town, or I carve it up into 30 pieces. So this evening, what we have to get by is, Genesee, if you want money or support from the town, you're not going to get it. Right. And so if you still want the land, then we do have to understand what you expect. Was first I heard that you expected some monetary contribution. I would hope that the trails people support of labor at least would handle some of your, you know, requests for support. As it goes beyond that, I might be willing to make a token contribution, but in this world of rising prices, it's just crazy. So we've got a lot of sidewalks to put in, which adds to the budget and adds to the ability for people to utilize trails, et cetera, and get around. So let's just get to the point. How much does Genesee need for support? And if you can prepare an MOU that says we definitely don't need town of Farmington or town of Victor material and labor, and if anything, all we would ask for is a kind letter when we go for grants, then I think we can close our books tonight and go home.
I just need to add one other thing. I think the MOU, as I understood in the scope of that company, was also talking about providing access over properties that are strictly used for maintaining the stormwater facilities in that area. And per our obligations with the state DEC, we can't provide access over those properties. So that's an additional issue that, as our understanding, was part of the scope of what areas were going to be access for trails and
I
whatnot.
questioned that, I questioned Kim on that subject a while ago, never got a response, because it didn't seem to me that if we provide storm easement access, that that's an exclusive access for that purpose.
Well, unfortunately, that's what DEC is now requiring us to do.
Well,
And that's a conversation that Keith Maynard would be part of.
Okay, then, I did try to clarify that, didn't get anywhere, but I don't, and I said at the time, I believe, that if that were a problem, we could certainly provide a trail easement that is adjacent to that storm easement, and that it's marked accordingly. I don't think that's a big issue with us. It would.
I'm noting that it was not strictly
Right.
about the inability of the town under the New York State Constitution to gift
Right,
money
and that-
and material and
and
labor.
that didn't
That was
come-
another issue that was
Right.
brought up by
I think that
by our
was, I
stormwater.
do recall that, and it wasn't part of Farmington because it wasn't part of their issue. And as I say, I questioned Kim about it and never got anywhere, but at the time, I didn't have any problem with that. If we had to make exclusive trail access, and I know David had already requested one to the rear of a number of our lots, in order to come off of the Auburn Trail at a different point of location. And we didn't have any problem with that either. So partly, we have to move beyond where we are right now, or we can't get into final engineering, because it's all about easements, and it's all about conservation lines, and it's all about where the property lines, et cetera. So back to you then, if we can address the access across the stormwater maintenance easement, are there other issues that Genesee would like to discuss?
So I guess at the time when we submitted the MOU, it was our understanding that we were trying to achieve a trail access from the subdivision to the proposed idea of having trails on this land. And that was the easiest way to do it. And if you can't go across that particular parcel, we would come back to and ask, where can we do that? Because that's a significant part of the idea of building trails that connect into the community of 85 new homes, as well as the public in general. So it wasn't our intent to go contrary to DEC rules and regulation. It was just that was the place that made the most sense looking at a picture on the map. So if that is the objection in that point, we'd be happy to accommodate if the developer is willing. But it seemed important enough to have it in there that it was a connection into that community. So the idea of, are we asking for the town to write a blank check to be doing all the maintenance and all? No. We're looking for a support of the idea that it's open space, that you'd be supportive of efforts to improve it, to have trails on it. You'd be supportive of, as long as it was felt reasonable at the time, to do other kinds of improvements. I know I wasn't at the meeting, but there was talk about, is there going to be a pedestrian trail across the stream or something? I think that's a little far-fetched at the moment, but, you know, that if there was a move afoot, that would be a great way to connect over to Mertensia Park. Would that be something the town would support if it seemed like a reasonable idea at the time? So I think that was more than specific. We want money and people out there working with their bulldozers. We have had opportunities to do projects in the past with other communities together, and how to set that up so that's at all possible to do in any way is something we are asking for your consideration. But we're not asking for Parks Department to come out and do the maintenance. We're not intending to ask for specific gravel, et cetera, but that it is, are there ways to think about it that would encourage this land as a unique feature in the town? I know you have many. So, for instance, I don't know if the land came to the land trust, and there was actually a town trail easement across the property that Victor Trails was committed to working on. Does that give it any town relationship that might help in the future to be some level of, I don't know, of what? Of care.
So if this town, if Town of Victor was willing to move forward with the MOU, and Farmington doesn't, does that change for the land trust? Was it change for Victor Hiking Trail?
I think the MOU, I'd have to double check exactly where it is, but I think the MOU really, I think, my impression is the MOU, or the idea of an MOU, is really with Victor, because this is Victor's subdivision, it's a subdivision in Victor, it's a request that you have encouraged the developer to think about, to put this land aside, and to take on, finding a partner that's willing to take on this project, because it's not an insignificant project.
I've maybe what could be a stupid question. If the town's not going to commit material, labor, or money, and you're looking for a general support of what you and the developer, your organization and the developer are doing, why do you need the MOU with the town? Do you need it
Do we need
with the
it?
idea of supporting grant applications your organization would make or undertake?
My understanding is that one was requested, but maybe I'm mistaken. No, it was just trying to understand, yes. I think just trying to understand what all the different entities are thinking about, and thinking that this is.
Because I'm not even sure from a legal standpoint, an MOU would be necessary in this situation.
Right.
I mean, if you're just looking for a general expression of support of what your organization and what Mr. Smith are trying to accomplish with this acreage, I don't think you need an MOU for that.
That's probably, yeah. And
I don't know if you were
right.
going to tell me that you like to have those in place so then you can show it on a grant application. I mean, does your organization pursue grants?
And so that is something that would be, show a higher level of general support by the town but you could also do that with a letter at the time.
Yeah, I don't think an MOU is necessary for that. So it's just a question I had.
So I think that resolving whether or not Genesee Land Trust would accept the land with a token donation from the developer to hold and manage for open space and essentially in public access. I think we will have to revisit. We don't need to take a year like we've been discussing so far, but I think just trying to get a real read on what is the level of commitment, and if there are any options of ways to consider supporting a project like this.
So the biggest deterrent, and believe me, I love the property. I grew up there. I grew up on Mud Creek. So Mud Creek, and I don't know how many feet to the west, is Farmington. If there's a Victor portion of it that the trail, Victor hiking trails and stuff would be involved with, if Farmington wasn't involved, would they still be involved? Would they still want to be involved if it didn't involve the waterfront or access to Mud Creek or any of those things that they're talking about, which is beautiful? But it's in the town of Farmington, and unless something's changed, I think Farmington has kind of said they just didn't want any part of it, really. It was theirs. There is a floodplain there, and there's that, so it's like, it would have to be.
It's your land, right?
I mean, Mike, I don't think the Farmington didn't want an active part of it, right? But they weren't saying that they didn't have, the preservation of the property wasn't an issue for Farmington. It was a question, I think this MOU was generated essentially from Genesee Land Trust, and apparently because of maybe you've done it before. I would agree that from a legal perspective, it wouldn't be necessary because no different than any other landowner within the town. You can do what you'd like with it, and that was our intention of finding somebody that would foster that land over the coming years. It may be as simple as it's between your organization and us in terms of under what terms are we providing you the land. My interest is to maintain it as one full parcel. And to clarify, there's only 15 acres out of a total about 65 acres and that are in Farmington. Now, it is the immediate Mud Creek area that's adjacent to your property, but there is nearly a mile of creek that is in Victor that is in kind of a second phase of interest from both the GLT as well as David, because it's not that immediate interesting Stone Creek area, but it is a large creek frontage. That frontage also is adjacent to other town property, which had been donated to the town from years ago when you used to accept that kind of thing. And so, forgive me for getting everybody to take so much time on this, but that was the original impetus to it. As I looked at all this town property, I looked at all this nice creek, I said, gee, why don't we all put it together? If it gets to be as simple as the two of us have to agree what they need from me to take the land, then we're all set, I think. And I agree, I don't see the need for an MOU with the town. It only aggravates the situation. Now, from a grant perspective, though, on the other hand, if the planning board says nice things about the development and the fact that the land is going to be preserved by GLT, then I think that would go a fair distance for grants that it shows there is town support. I mean, the planning board is a town body. I don't think there's anything, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's really nothing that the town board has to be involved with, correct? Because if it's not a dedication of land or special districting or any, well, there'll be special districts, but not.
I think so.
So I would think a support from the planning board maybe would serve that grant purpose. I didn't mean to make this so much work for everybody. Sorry. So maybe we can adjourn and then we'll have to get together.
I think that we can do that, and I think that there's, you all recognize, we all recognize that having land that's open to the public requires care and responsibility and a long-term commitment. And sometimes it feels like that commitment just goes, oh, let's find someone else to do it. And we just wanted to say, please recognize that it is a big commitment and that we need to make that as a decision as an organization if that's where we are. So that's, we really appreciate your willingness to talk and think about how to create something that is such a positive thing for the community, both Victor and Farmington, and people who enjoy the Auburn Trail, and people who live in the development, and the people who live in the already built environment that's right there that connects through those town parcels. So, and I sort of forgot about the whole mile of creek because I think of that one section right there that it goes around the whole section. Dave,
Well, I just wanted to add that however this lands, Victor Hiking Trails intends to have a mutual agreement with Genesee Land Trust to make sure that we both know who's going to take care of it, who's going to build it, who's going to be out there, 3 times a month to make sure it's kept up to our standard. And so that will happen regardless. And I'm sure that even though Genesee Land Trust will own it, the planning board is going to require some kind of legalese for a conservation easement so that it stays, not forever wild, but no structures per se. So that will happen anyway. Okay.
Appreciate you saying up to your standards, so.
Yeah.
So Gay, we've been very fortunate in this town. I think we're 60-plus miles of trails in this town, and a lot of it is Victor Hiking Trails. We have much thanks to them for their efforts. The problem, just like any organization, is getting new volunteers and younger volunteers as well. So their standards. So at some point, just trying to forecast years from now, if we can't backfill a lot of those volunteers, the town certainly doesn't want those trails to go by the wayside. So at some point, I could see maybe more in town involvement. Not today, but in the future. But Scott, you made a great point about certainly, preserving something that is very nice. And I certainly know the trails, you'll certainly encompass the water so people, the walkers can visualize that and certainly benefit. Councilman Kohovic, any other councilman? Anyone
It's been
objecting
an ongoing
to?
project, as we mentioned. We've walked it. We've gotten, in mud up to our ankles and, going through the bean field and walking along the trail. And yes, it's got a lot of potential. Unfortunately, like the town just can't, take that extra a bit on. And I still think it's a great project. I think it's a great idea. I think there's a lot of positives to it. It's just a matter of getting it to the finish line, I think. And I think you guys are close.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time, and I know that, right, from the beginning, and that was perfectly acceptable, the town made a position that they didn't need any nor wanted more parkland, and we understood that. That's why we went to a number of other organizations to seek further preservation, but I will continue to work with GLT, and we'll hammer out something, and then that will be part of the final plan. As it is, if we don't, then we have to deal with the conservation in another way, and so that's why we weren't moving forward at this point. So, but I appreciate all of your time tonight. Thank you.
Jeff and Gay, well done. Pinch hitting there for Lorna. So.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I have to say that I've worked with Victor Hiking Trail. I've watched Victor Hiking Trails. I don't work for them in the sense of getting out there
Looking
with
for
the-
volunteers.
I know they're looking.
One of them's got an application with them right now.
Young volunteers. but
She's gonna retire someday.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And she run a chainsaw.
Okay, next is public comments and concerns. We'll start with Susie. Anyone? Virtual, no? Okay, any members of the public care to address the town board with any comments or concerns they may have? Certainly.
Hi, my name is Melanie Sheehan, and I believe you want my address. Is that how this works? 790 Duck Hollow in Victor. I just came to say thank you because on this evening's agenda, one of the things is that my son, who's Isaac Sheehan, is going to be renominated to be as part of the advisory board committee. He's done it for about a year now, and he's going to do it again. And he's working tonight, so he couldn't come. But thank you for giving young people the opportunity to do that, because it's been a good experience for him and his father. We like seeing him on there and just kind of participating and kind of getting him involved in volunteering early on. So that was it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your pushing your son, or maybe you didn't have to push him at all, but I think it's a great experience, and we've heard that from many parents who've come along this way. And, at the end of the day, it also lowers the medium age of our committees as well by adding these youth, so, okay?
Yeah, no, he enjoys it. So it's good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, moving to reports of town officials. You have within your packet, report from our Director of Finance, Town Historian, Parks and Recreation, and you should be, I think, the November traffic report from Ontario County Sheriff's Department. Real quick, I want to thank all those volunteers and the employees that gave up their good portion of their Saturday a few weeks ago for the Jingle Mingle event. It was a very popular event. I think we had over 350 families that signed up, and then a number of, figured a couple hundred children as well. But characters here, Disney characters, a number of them were town employees, and then our Santa was a town employee, and I had a couple elves helping him out as well down in Mead Square Park, and then the public safety, EMS, first responders, and our high school seniors as part of the parade. That was very nice as well. So thank you to all. I also want to mention that the last town board meeting, I mentioned that I had announced that I was going to not pursue the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for 2023. That remains, but for clarification, I'm not retiring at the end of this year. I had people saying so I have one more full year left on this term, and I'm going to do that year and look at doing something along that lines again. So, final item, I did share with the board an article on Marketplace Mall and how they've gone through the process and of changing the height zoning requirements there, and I know that's something that we're working with Lobello Associates to change here as well. Let's face it, as good as a mall may be, certainly the retail component is declining daily, and I think there's an opportunity to assist the owners of that parcel as well as some of the other buildings up there in attracting new businesses, or certainly a new tenants up there. So I wanted to share that with the board as well. Board members, do you have any committees care to report on? Hearing none, we'll move to resolutions in the business section, starting with resolution number 1 from the Economic Development Department. And this is an update over the CDBG grant fund, which has been a very popular program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution 1 is passed. Number 2 is setting the public hearing for this Community Development Block Grant final report, which would be on the Tuesday the 27th. And I do want to thank the members of the committee as well who have served on that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, resolution, this is a budget transfer, operating funds, and certainly you could see fuel has drained a few of these funds, understandable. And I want to thank the Director of Finance for getting out in front of this early on rather than waiting till the end of the year or first meeting or 2 of next year. So,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 4, this is board reappointments, and Victor Town Board hereby appoints or reappoints the following residents to boards and committees. So we have 3 from the Zoning Board of Appeal, Fred Salzberg, Matthew Nearpass, Alexis Ogra. Planning Board, Scott Harder. Mountain Park, Claudia Walsh. Conservation Board, Matt Madison. Historic Advisory, John Butler and Robert Kelly. Parks and Rec Advisory, Mark Robbins, and then student member, Isaac Sheehan. So we still have, I think we're still looking for possibly a Board of Assessment review and 2 members for Mountain Park. So members, any comments or questions? There are none. A motion to approve the appointments or reappointments thereof.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 5 is the agreement with Joshua Messing, and I know if you look through the packet, what he's proposing will certainly enhance these kiosks around the town here, so. Questions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we need a waiver for his liability insurance as well.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
From the supervisor's office, this is a intermunicipal agreement, Ontario County Sheriffs for court security, keep our staff as well as our visitors safe when they come over there.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, the 2023 intermunicipal agreement. I want to thank this town board for increasing the weekly hours. Again, our continued commitment to the safety of our residents. We know we have a speeding issue. We spoke of it 2 weeks ago here, but certainly I think having more of a visible presence from Ontario County Sheriffs will go a long ways, eventually achieving what our goals are.
Just a quick question. So
Yes.
17.5, right?
Yes,
But in the recent traffic report, they're at 20.
for that. So we will tell you there's weeks because they were so far behind during the summer when they're
Gotcha.
short-staffed. That's what it is. But at the end of the year, they
End
won't
of the year
exceed.
be-
In fact,
not
if anything, I think they're under budget for this calendar year.
Okay. I think Mike
I move.
moved it. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, number 8 is passed. Next, amend the fee schedule. And I just want to make sure, this actually goes into effect immediately. And here's why. Because when they mail them out, otherwise people will say, they'll come in and try to pay it before. So the first resolve, and approves dated, and it really should be,
Not going to come out until quarterly.
yeah, so they're mailing them out this week. Yeah. Supervisor mentioned it,
I didn't
that
realize that.
they were, yeah, he, so let's see.
So you want,
Any,
Who's the amendment to the active?
everyone see that first resolve?
Yep.
Here you go.
So the resolution is going to be a revised draft wording dated January 1st, 2023. Effective immediately. So whoever would move for that motion would move with that revision.
I'll move it as amended.
Second.
That said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, the amended fee schedule be effective immediately is hereby passed. Number 10, approval of acquisition of the easement. Monroe County Water Authority resident who resides at 277 Benson has elected to hook up with the Monroe County Water, and they need a easement across their property.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 11 is the contract with NYMER, New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, and Eastern Shore Associates. And again, this is the bundle of the insurance for all town departments.
Hey, Jack, I had a quick question. As I
Yes.
look through this, there's a lot of different pump stations listed, right? Mm-hmm. So we're responsible for insuring that as opposed to Farmington, correct?
Correct, yep,
And they are not insuring them. I just want to make sure we're not,
correct.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, we actually, yes, we own that infrastructure. When it's developer, when we take ownership of it, they dedicate it to us. Same with the roads that Mark looks forward to taking on. Well, I didn't say pump stations, I said roads. So, good question.
Yeah,
Any
I'm
other
fine.
questions?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 12, and you'll recall, it was about this time last year where we opted out of the whole cannabis for a dispensary, And with the option for the town to come back on a dispensary, they also had opted out, which was permanent on a lounge. So what this is actually declaring us lead agency. I also owe you the full environmental assessment form, which I will send out to you. And so what this is doing, setting a public hearing for January 23rd, 7 PM.
And establishing the town board as lead agency for purposes of conducting a secret review.
Questions, board members?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Next is number 13 and 14 from the clerk's office. This is 700 Brownsville Road and the conservation easement. Okay. And you left this for all the board members? Or maybe this?
Yeah, you all got a copy.
Board members, there was communications from Andrew Torpy for your, and you look at,
If you want to say anything, Mark is here. Yeah, he doesn't have to.
Did, yeah.
I'm not sure why he didn't show up. It's kind of
Oh, no.
his,
I already spoke to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't necessary. I didn't know if you needed to.
I had nothing else to do.
Okay.
so in the first resolve, you'll see, board members, that the Victortown Board hereby approves the proposed amendment contingent upon the updated meets and bounds and map are approved by the town attorney. And I know there's language in here, some things that, I think you have this?
Yep, Kevin Overton will be reviewing it, and it's also the understanding of the property owner that Fair Speech will be preparing that. Cost of preparing that will be.
Okay. And you'll recall, board members, that this was,
Talk to Andrew.
this is a parcel that I think is looking for a sale, and this keeps the train moving, as well as protects the town with this language on that resolve.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, moving to number 14, dog control, 2023 contract, and a not-to-exceed number of $32,369.
We've had several discussions around this particular item. It's been in the budget the last few years. We're not sure that we're getting the value out of this from what we're spending money to provide. Is there any way we can get them to provide us with a report on what they're doing in Victor, similar to like the road patrol gives us a report on a monthly basis? Other things where we pay money for, we get a report. I'm not sure that we really know how much we're getting for what the money that we're spending.
In the past.
They give a narrative, but not the, I don't think the breakdown you're looking for, but it's not to say that Karen can't ask that question.
Sorry, Karen.
And Supervisor,
I'm not the chairman.
I would echo Mr. Kohovic's comment. And certainly I can plead some ignorance to the fact that, I don't know the day in and day out of what that entails, but, in looking at the contract, it's relatively straightforward and to what the requirements of that organization are. But that said, I think, I don't see a physical presence from the Humane Society in our town very often. Maybe that's because we don't have a lot of animal issues, animal complaints. But just, the physical lack of their presence or appearance of that, just draws concern to the fact that it's a pretty decent chunk of money that we spend yearly to really not yield, a visible return. So I know that it's certainly a requirement for the town to have that service, whether it's provided through the town or through the county, et cetera. But I just want to make sure that we're getting the bang for the buck and those services are being delivered at the highest possible level.
Okay.
I will ask for a report and hopefully have it by the 27th
Thank you.
meeting. So,
That said, if there's no further question, a motion to,
so are you going
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, again, to public comments, Suzie. That'll be a no. Members of the public? Motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.